What would you do if the sun refused to rise? If darkness swallowed your world and no one, not even the king himself, could bring back the light? This is the story of Jabari, a humble hunter who learned that the smallest flame can conquer the deepest darkness, and that courage lives not in palaces, but in hearts willing to sacrifice everything. The kingdom of Songhai was a place of legend, where the golden savanna stretched to meet the sky, and the great river Baba flowed with fish so plenty that no one ever went hungry. The people lived well under King Sundiata, whose wisdom was matched only by his generosity. But prosperity breeds complacency, and complacency breeds forgetting. The people of Songhai had forgotten the old ways. They no longer gave offerings to the spirits of the land. They no longer honored the sacred tree that had stood at the kingdom's heart for 1,000 years. They no longer sang the gratitude songs at harvest time. We don't need the old superstitions, the young merchants said. We have trade and gold. The spirits are just stories, the scholars declared. We have knowledge and reason. Even the king, though kind-hearted, distant from the rituals his grandfather had maintained faithfully. And so the spirits grew angry. It happened on the morning after the lesson it would never forget, when the people had celebrated their bounty without giving thanks to the earth that provided it. The sun did not rise, they waited. But first, hours passed, people thought it was simply a late dawn, absolute, suffocating. They lit their lamps and went about preparing for the day. Panic spread through Songhai like wildfire. The priests consulted their say texts and found only, not solutions. The scholars offered theories, but no answers. The king sent his strongest warriors to the east, commanding them to find the sun and demand its return. They never came back. Days passed, then weeks. The kingdom began to die. Crops withered without sunlight. Livestock grew sick in the perpetual night. People stumbled through the darkness, fear growing in their hearts like a poison. King Sundiata stood on his palace balcony, staring into the impenetrable black. And for the first time in his reign, he felt helpless. Someone must speak to word. Mama Shiamaka Deus priestestode. Someone must speak to the spirits and learn what price must be paid to bring back the light. I will send my bravest general. The king said, "No, the spirits will not speak to soldiers or nobles. They want someone humble, someone pure of heart, someone who remembers what your kingdom has forgotten." Then who? But Mama Kiamaka had no answer. The kingdom needed a hero. And heroes, as the old tales teach us, rarely come from the places we expect. Jabari lived at the very edge of the kingdom, where the villages gave way to wild forest. He was a hunter, as his father had been and his father before him. He was not rich. He had no title. No one knew his name beyond his own small village, but Jabari remembered the old ways. Every morning before he hunted, he poured libation to the forest spirits, thanking them for the animals that would feed his family. When the darkness came, Jabari's village suffered like all the others. The ones about gratitude and balance and living in harmony. And in Jabari sat quietly beneath the great tree at the center of his village, a whisper and did what he had always done. A voice like rustling leaves. The sun is held captive in the cave of shadows, beyond the edge of the world. The spirits have taken it because the people have forgotten respect. It will remain there until someone brave enough and humble enough comes to ask for its return, not demand, not to bargain. but to ask. This was why he had kept the old ways alive when others abandoned them. This moment. This task. He went home and told his wife, Zuri, what he planned to do. You'll die, she said, tears in her voice. No one who has gone into the deep darkness has returned. Then our children will die in darkness instead. Zuri, someone has to try. She held him close, then released him. Go then, and may the ancestors walk beside you. Jabari took only 3 things: his hunting spear, a calabash of water, and a small clay lamp his grandmother had given him years ago, filled with sacred oil that was said to never run out. Then he walked into the darkness, toward the edge of the world. The journey was longer and harder than any hunt Jabari had ever undertaken. He walked for days through a darkness so thick it felt solid, like wading through deep water. His small lamp cast only the faintest glow, barely enough to see his own feet. Around him, he heard sounds, whispers, laughter, crying. The darkness was full of things that watched and waited. Several times, he heard voices calling his name, trying to lure him off his path. They promised him riches, power, a safe return home if he would only turn back. But Jabari remembered his grandmother's teachings. Spirits test those who seek their favor. They offer temptations to see if your heart is true. I did not come for riches, he called into the darkness. I came for my people. For the children who are afraid, for the elders who are dying. For the son that belongs to everyone, not just to me. The voices fell silent. He walked on. On the 7th day, he reached the Cave of Shadows, a yawning mouth in the earth that seemed to breathe darkness itself. At its entrance stood a figure, tall and terrible, made of shadow and starlight woven together. I am Ekwensu, keeper of this threshold, the figure said, its voice like wind through empty places. You seek the sun. I do. Many have come before you. Warriors and princes and powerful sorcerers, all have failed. What makes you think you will succeed? Jabari looked at what he carried, his spear, his water, his lamp. He thought about what Ekwensu was truly asking. Not a thing, but a part of himself. The warriors had offered strength, but kept their pride. The princes had offered titles, but kept their status. The sorcerers had offered knowledge, but kept their certainty. What made Jabari who he was? What defined him? I offer my anonymity, Jabari said finally. I am a hunter from a small village. No one knows my name. No one speaks of my deeds. I am content to be forgotten, to live in obscurity, because I hunt not for glory but for purpose. That obscurity is precious to me. It keeps me humble. It keeps me true. But if the price of the sun is that I must be remembered, that I must carry the weight of being known, then I will pay it. Ekwensu was silent for a long moment. Then, incredibly, it laughed. A sound like bells made of ice. All these weeks, mighty warriors offered their strength but clung to their arrogance. Wealthy merchants offered gold but kept their greed. Learned men offered wisdom but held tight to their superiority. But you, little hunter, you understand. True sacrifice is giving up, not what you can spare, but what defines you. You have passed the test. The darkness at the cave, mouth parted like a curtain. Inside, Jabari found a chamber of impossible beauty. The walls glowed with crystals that held captured starlight. And at the center, bound in chains of shadow, hung the sun. It was smaller than he expected, no larger than a great drum, but even diminished. Its warmth called to him like home. Around, the sun sat the council of spirits. ancient beings of tree and stone, water and wind, all watching him with eyes older than kingdoms. You seek the sun, the elder spirit said, her voice like ancient roots pushing through earth. Why should we return it to a people who have forgotten us? Jabari knelt, not from fear, but from respect. Because they are learning. Because suffering teaches what prosperity could not. Because every child born in darkness will hear the story of why the sun was taken, and they will teach their children to be grateful. One generation forgot. The next will remember for 100 generations. And what of you, Jabari? What do you want for yourself? Nothing. I want only to see my wife smile in sunlight again. I want to hear children laughing as they play in the warmth. I want my people to live. That is enough. The spirits looked at each other. Then the eldest nodded slowly, released the sun. This one has reminded us why we loved humanity in the first place. Not for their power or their wealth, but for their capacity to grow, to learn, to sacrifice for others. The chains fell away. The sun, freed from its prison, rose from Jabari's hands like a bird taking flight. It grew as it rose, expanding until its light filled the chamber, then the kavi. Then rushed out across the kingdom like a wave of golden fire. Darkness fled before it. In Songhai, people stumbled from their homes, weeping and laughing as light returned to the world. The warmth touched their faces like a blessing. Crops that had withered began to heal. Animals emerged from hiding. The great River Baba sparkled once more. King Sundiata fell to his knees on his balcony, gratitude overwhelming him. Jabari walked home through a kingdom transformed. Everywhere he went, people stopped him, asking his name, thanking him, calling him a hero. The king himself came to Jabari's village and offered him riches. Land, a place at court, but Jabari, though he could no longer hide in obscurity as he once had, remained humble. I need no reward, Your Majesty. I did only what anyone should do when their people are in need. But I will ask one thing: restore the old ways, honor the spirits, teach the children to be grateful. Make sure this darkness never returns because we forgot where our blessings come from. The king agreed. He reinstated the harvest ceremonies. He repaired the shrines. He ensured that every child learned the gratitude songs. And Jabari, he returned to hunting, though now he was no longer anonymous. Parents pointed him out to their children as an example. His name became legend. But he bore the weight of being known with the same grace he had carried obscurity. Because his heart remained true to what mattered: purpose, service, gratitude. Darkness comes not from the absence of light, but from the absence of gratitude. When we forget to honor what sustains us, when we take our blessings for granted, we invite shadow into our lives. But there is always hope, because there is always someone willing to walk into darkness for the sake of others. Jabari saved his kingdom not with strength or wealth or magic, but with humility and genuine sacrifice. He gave up what was most precious to him, his anonymity, his quiet life, because he understood that some prices must be paid for the greater good. Remember this: the heroes we need are not always the ones we expect. They are not the strongest or the richest or the most powerful. They are the ones who remember gratitude, the ones who honor what came before, the ones who will walk into darkness so others may have light. This is the wisdom passed down so that we might never forget. Give thanks for your blessings. Respect the sources of your prosperity. And when darkness comes, have the courage to be the light. The tale is told. May the sun always shine on your path. Moral lesson. True heroism comes from humility and selfless service. We must be grateful for our blessings and honor what sustains us. The greatest sacrifices are not of things we can spare, but of what defines us, given freely for the good of all.